Good evening or good day, depending where in the world you are right now. Welcome to the Online MBA and Master of Laws Info-Session. Your expert this evening is Professor Barbara Sturtinger.
Good evening.
And my name is Anna Patterson. I'll be walking this info-session through with you tonight, and I'm very much looking forward to your questions. I do hope you have a few things in the back of your mind that you'll be sharing with us in the chat box you can find here in this platform. You have the opportunity to send your questions directly to Professor Sturtinger here tonight. And the way this is going to work is we're going to share first a short presentation to give you an overview on the 3 points you see on the screen, namely the programs we have in these areas of professional MBA and Master of Laws. Then we'll talk a little bit about the investment needed to do these programs. And then we'll talk about the return on investment from the perspectives of our alumni who have shared their opinions on this. So it'll be a great time for a lot of questions. I do hope you have some fun, and I'll see you later.
Okay. Thank you very much, Anna. Hello and welcome everybody to this info session. Please take Anna's advice seriously and send your questions. She will come back at the end of my presentation, and we have an opportunity to answer anything that you want to know from us. Let me start off with a few facts and figures and inputs from our side, which we think is important when you think about your decision of doing an MBA or a Master of Legal Studies. In the first part, I will focus more on the programs to give you a brief overview of how they are set up. In the second part, as Anna mentioned, we talk about your investment. So what's your commitment from your side to your MBA or Masters of Legal Studies journey? And then I would like to share with you what our alumni have to say once they've been through this experience, to give you an idea of what to expect once you graduated. Yeah, I think what I would like to do in the next couple of minutes, and there's lots to say about our programs, of course. I try to focus on the highlights to give you an idea of how we design and develop our programs. What you see here is an overview of the professional MBA, one of our program types. And there are already a couple of very important pieces of information I would like to stress at this point. First of all, you see a description of who is going to be sitting next to you in class if you decide to go for a professional MBA. On average, your colleagues will be around 34 years old, with already considerable work experience. And this is important to realize, because you will not only learn from the people in front of you, but from those people sitting next to you. So what you have to share, what your colleagues have to share in the classroom in terms of your experience and professional background, is a very important part of the learning experience. Another thing that we're also very proud of, and that we feel makes this learning experience a rewarding one, is the high international diversity. So you see that on average about 70% of our students in the professional MBA programs are non-Austrians. And not only that, they come from many, many different countries. So on average, you can think of an average class size, and you would probably have around 20 to 25 different nationalities in your group. Why is that important? Again, you learn from those people sitting next to you. You benefit from the experiences and the exchange that you have in the classroom. And this adds another facet to the diversity, not only in terms of industry, in terms of experience, but also in terms of where people come from, where people work, those sitting next to you eventually. You also see a diversity in terms of industry represented. Again, adding to that what I already stressed, the diversity in terms of background. So we do in most specializations not focus on individual industries, but really provide a big variety, because many challenges are similar across different industries, but the ways probably how to deal with them can spark some discussion and creativity in the classroom again. What makes our professional MBAs also very special is that all of them have an international residency. So with what I described so far, you will have a great and inspirational learning environment here in Vienna in the classroom. But we want to take this learning a step further to the next level. And that's putting you into an international environment outside of the classroom. And that's what's happening through the international residencies. So you see here a couple of locations that we typically go to. Many of our international residencies go to the United States because for many of the topics we're dealing with, places in the US are iconic, if you so want. So if you want to learn something new about marketing and sales, then Silicon Valley might be the best place to do that, where you find the Googles and the Facebooks. If you want to hear more about how entrepreneurs are starting their business, then it's probably the MIT or the Harvard environment that provides this ecosystem to take your business to the next level. So not only will you be learning in the classroom, but taking the entire cohort to a different part of the world, exposing you to this ecosystem is again another enriching component of our programs. Yeah, let me say a few words about how the program is set up, and I come back to that aspect a little bit later. If you look at the professional MBA, it basically has three different parts. The first part is the so-called business core. This is the part where you get yourself immersed, engaged in business essentials. So whatever it takes to be successful as a business executive, as an entrepreneur, a holistic perspective on different aspects of a business. In the second part, you go into the specialization that you choose. So you may come out of a finance background and you want to improve your already existing knowledge with theoretical components, with exchange among like-minded peers. Then the finance specialization is the right thing for you. Finance is, of course, not the only specializations. We have a couple of them, and we may want to talk about that later. So next to the business core that gives you a broad and holistic perspective, you can deep dive into your area of expertise in the second part of your studies with the specialization. The third and final part is the master thesis. So the master thesis is a project at the end of your studies. It's looking at what you have acquired in terms of theoretical knowledge and leveraging that in depth into a professional challenge that you're facing. So it's a mix of both. What have you acquired in terms of new knowledge, and how would that relate to a business challenge that you're facing? This concludes your studies, and we are very much looking forward to having many of you at our graduation at some point in time. Also something we can talk about later. To give you an idea of how the program is set up, you find a schedule that you can rely on, and that's what we actually mean by that. Is you already know now when you would have to be on campus for your program that starts in October of 2019. So the entire schedule is already fixed. All the faculty is already invited, so you can be really sure that what you see as a schedule will hold true in reality. You can plan your professional life around it, and you can plan any other activities around this schedule. That makes it just much more easy to find a place in your busy agenda for the MBA journey. In the professional MBA, we have included something new. You can change from, select from two different tracks. We have a 4-day track and an 8-day track. The 4-day track basically spreads the modules over several 4-day chunks. The 8-day track combines 4-day modules into an 8-day module. So in essence, you hear the same topics, but you choose the format that fits your personal learning style, smaller bits and pieces, everything in one spot and condensed. And you can also fit it to your professional environment. Yeah, sometimes it's easier for companies you work in to say, I'm gone for an entire week and not that often, or it's easier to fit in half weeks off the job on a more regular pattern. So this is something where we provide you with more flexibility to make sure that you can, again, fit the MBA journey into your professional environment. Yeah, after the business core, which is held in either 4 or 8-day track, whatever you choose to pick, then you go into the specialization, which I've described before. At the moment, we're offering 6 different specializations. You see them lined up on the right side of this chart. And basically, that depends on your choice, how you want to drive your career to the next level. If you have any questions regarding specializations, please do not hesitate. Put your questions in, and then we can answer one or the other for you as we go along. Another type of program that I want to highlight at this point, because it's not only MBA programs that we offer, but we also offer business law degrees. You see them in an overview right there. You see also which ones are going to start rather soon, in fall of this year or next year. In fall of this year, we're starting with our Master of Legal Studies. To put it in a nutshell, that's law for business people in German language, so for the Austrian legal context, more or less. We will start with the European version in next year, fall of next year. So depending on where you are active, which legal framework you're more interested in, this year might be more interesting, or next year might be more interesting as a point to start with your law degree. And in the middle, you find the international tax law. Again, if there are any questions, we can come back to that later. Yeah, so this was kind of, I hope in a nutshell, an overview of the programs, the type of programs that we're offering. We have more in the portfolio. I can also talk about executive MBAs if some questions come up, but today I really want to focus in my communication more on professional MBAs and law degrees. After this introduction to the programs, I want to come back probably closer to the place where you are right now in your decision making, yeah? And talk about understanding your investment. So what does it need to go on an MBA journey? And typically there are three different elements that come into the decision making. Yeah? So when you think about how to take the next step, the first one is, of course, will I have time to do that MBA? You saw in my introduction that our participants are on average around 33, 34, 35 years old. So you already are in the rush hour of life. You have a demanding job. You will have a private life. So usually you will not be the type of person who waits to fill their evenings and weekends with an MBA. So we have ways to make sure that it still is possible, and I would like to share that with you. Second one, how much energy and time do I need to invest? Yeah. Into such an MBA journey. And last but not least, of course, an MBA is also a big financial investment. So let me share a few ideas of how we can support you along those lines. Yeah, let me just first of all talk about time. Yeah, we realize that you're very busy. We realize that there are lots of things going on and on your agenda. And therefore, as I have stressed already with the schedule, we have multiple ways to make sure that you can plan ahead. Yeah? Next to the schedule that's already outlined, we also have a system that makes it easy to integrate the MBA journey into your life in the way how we set up our modules. Yeah? You saw either you choose the 4-day track or the 8-day track. You will have 4 days of modules or 8 days of modules at one point in time. But in essence, they both work the same way. Yeah? When you come to Vienna, that's what's outlined in your calendar already. It will be the so-called core module. This is when you sit in class with your colleagues next to you, and you will have the faculty to work with you on the topic that's on the agenda. Around the core module, you have what we call pre-module assignments and post-module assignments. You can think of it as a way of homework, so to speak. So the pre-module assignment is something that you do before you come to Vienna, basically bringing everybody up to speed to the similar level, regardless of how much you know about a certain topic already or how much experience you have. Think of you might be working in finance, so a business core module on financial management might not be such a big challenge as it may be for a person working in marketing. Yeah? On the other hand, for somebody working in finance, the marketing module might be more challenging. To make sure that you can benefit from each of those modules, we provide you with pre-module assignments that make sure that you reach this level of expertise to be able to grasp as much as you can from the core module sessions. You come to Vienna, you go through the core module, you work with the faculty, you work with this diverse group of fellow students. and then you go into the post-module assignment. And this is where you implement what you have acquired in terms of new knowledge and insights into your professional environment. And I think this is very important to realize. Yeah? Your return on investment, and I come back to that in a little while, already starts from day one. Because what you get in terms of knowledge, you can immediately implement in your daily business life. And we make sure that this works very smoothly through the pre-module, core module, and post-module setup. What you may want to consider is, I've mentioned before, the international residencies. Yeah, there you might need some extra time in terms of travel. Yeah. We also do have a lot of activities around the program, like company visits organized. So if you want to benefit from that, that again might mean coming in 1 day extra. But for your studies, basically those 4 days or 8 days in the calendar are already carved in stone, and you can fully rely on that. Yeah, I talked about the second point. So the first one in terms of your investment is time. Second one is energy. So how much energy do I need to invest into an MBA? And who can be a better person to talk about that is those who've been through this experience. And I would like to share one example of one of our graduates, recent graduates, Olena Klon, who was doing one of our programs. And we went to Olena and said, can you give us a ballpark figure how much time in a week you would have to invest into an MBA? And that's what she came back to. So basically, I don't have to read it out to you. I think you see it on screen. But just to put it in a nutshell, basically, it's 15 to 20 hours a week. Yeah? And Olena at the time had a very demanding job, which basically did not allow her to go home at 4 o'clock and then start studying. On top, she was traveling quite a bit back and forth. But still, this is what she basically told us, and how she also managed to get her MBA fit into her daily routine. How you distribute that time, whether you spend it on weekends or evenings, that is really depending also on your personal learning style. But these 15 to 20 hours is something that you can basically pretty much rely on. It might be more for some modules where you're not so familiar with the content. It might be less on modules which come out of your expertise and background. So take this as an average figure of investment that you put into an MBA. And don't forget, it's also to a certain degree your choice how much time you invest. You're all here voluntarily. You invest as much time as you want. We, of course, make sure that there is a certain level that you give back to your colleagues and the faculty. But how much you go into detail, how much you invest in your preparation and your post-module assignments also depends on what you want to get out. So it's your responsibility at the end of the day. Yeah, I mentioned, of course, that it's not only an investment in terms of time, in terms of energy that you put in, but of course in terms of financial investments. And there are various ways that we would like to support you along those lines. You find all these details also on our website under the header of financing. So basically, one way to deal with that is go back to your employer and make sure that they understand why an investment in an MBA is not only beneficial for you as an individual, but for the company as well. We have provided material. We can provide you with lines of arguments that we found successful with previous students. Yeah. But think of the fact, as I mentioned, you implement the knowledge that you've generated as you go along in the program. Yeah. So therefore, your employer will see and will realize immediately what you can bring to the table. There are a couple of other financial support schemes, education loans, external funding. We've put them together here in a nutshell for you. If you happen to live in Austria or pay taxes in Austria, Austria, for example, has a quite good tax regime. So there are multiple ways to get funded, or at least partially funded. Again, one advice that I can only give you, our program managers have a lot of experience over those past years with candidates in different financial situations. So I think we can also give you some consulting on how to approach your individual challenge. What we also do is we arrange a payment plan with you together where you can accommodate your tax needs or your income needs to a certain level, and set your installments for the tuition, what makes it convenient for you to actually also come up with the financial means for the program. Yeah, so don't hesitate about this issue or any other issue to come back to us, to come back to our program managers and ask how we can support you. That's what we're here for. Yeah, what we also do, and this is more direct from our perspective, we also provide scholarships. Scholarships are a way to support outstanding candidates who otherwise would find it rather challenging to participate in the program. There are a couple of scholarship schemes. There are also the conditions related to them, which are outlined on our website. You find a brief overview right here. Again, if you want to look into more details there, then just check out the website, get in touch with us. And two other things, I talked about the installments, which is point 8 on that slide, but also we offer, for those of you who are already pretty far in their decision and you can make your decision quick, early bird discounts at the beginning of the program or when we start the recruitment cycle. So there's multiple ways how you can mitigate your financial challenges. There's multiple ways how we can support you. So do reach out to us to see what we can offer and how we can work with you on this aspect. Yeah, I think, I hope at least by now you have a good overview of what to expect in terms of the program, how they're set up, but also in terms of what's necessary in terms of input from your side. Let me now focus on the third aspect, more or less. What's the return? And of course, you're all seasoned business professionals, so the return on investment question is one that always comes up naturally. Let me outline the return along 3 different dimensions. The first one is career advancement. The second one, the network that has a potential to help you towards that direction. And as I've also outlined at some points through my presentation, the practical hands-on content that you can transfer easily to your job. So let me just highlight a few aspects along those 3 different dimensions. Career advancement. And I realize that there's a lot on this slide, which I leave up to you to read in detail. Let me just focus on the big picture here. What we have seen, and these figures are hard data that come out of our alumni surveys, that come out of the Financial Times ranking, yeah, where students report back, not influenced by us in such a way, with what they have experienced after graduation, usually 1 to 3 years after graduation. One of the most remarkable things is that an MBA or a legal program is a game changer. If you look at the first bubble, 80% of our alumni have changed their job in the first 3 to 4 years after graduation. And changing means moving up in your own company or changing to a new company. So both options are possible, yeah, or both options is something that we see in our outside environment. When the students graduate or already while they're in the program, within their immediate environment, in their companies, they already stick out because you're going the extra mile with an MBA. Your colleagues see how you implement what you've learned immediately as you go along. And that, of course, qualifies you for a next career step. If that environment in your current company is not conducive, then finding a new job is the second alternative. And that's another alternative that our alumni are choosing. Usually with career advancement, it not only comes with more responsibility and work, but usually also with a pay raise. So again, a couple of figures that you find here. You can look at a pay raise of around 30% within a very short period of time. So put that into perspective, how quickly you can basically earn back the money that the tuition is. And you are preparing yourself not for the next 3-4 years, but the next 10, 15, 20 years in your career. So there's even more potential that brings you up to speed, that an MBA brings you up to speed with, that you can then generate in the years to come. Apart from the hard facts like career changes, more money, I think one part that I also want to stress, and that's basically the last bubble, that's self-fulfillment and self-confidence. When I talk to alumni, what they very often come back with is not only the hard facts, but when they come back and say, what I really got out of this MBA next to new knowledge, network, or whatever it is a confidence in what I know. I thought I was a good professional already. I have all my experiences, but now I can put it into perspective. I filled my gaps. I know where I want to go from here. And I think this is also a very important, probably non-financial outcome of an MBA. Yeah, how do we support you here? As we realize that, of course, one of the key motivations next to learning more, enhancing and broadening your horizon is also to advance in your career. We provide you with different activities along those lines. One important point of generating those new career opportunities is the network. Yeah? We offer our own platform. It's called VUEA Connect. You see a screenshot here. And it's basically your single point of contact in terms of information and exchange, not only with your group of students sitting next to you in the classroom, but also with students and alumni, particularly from other programs from the entire universe of the New Executive Academy. And again, talking about network, I talked about diversity in the very beginning. This is one of the values that I think is still one of the highly undervalued values of an MBA. That's the network. I bet that nowhere in your career will you be able to create such a profound network, because you're going through a lot in those 18 months together. So those people sitting next to you will not only be your professional network, but also your friends. It will be the most diverse network that you get. It does not come out of your industry. It does not come out of your function, but it cuts across all different industries, cuts across all different functions. And it's intercultural. So you have people from many different parts of the world. And this is what I think is really one of the jewels of an MBA experience, the multifaceted network. Why is it important in terms of career advancement? Because very often we see that career opportunities come out of the network. You hear from your colleagues in the classroom. You find some job posts here on VUEA Connect. You may reach out to an alumnus or an alumna who's working in the company that you want to go to. So you can find multiple ways to connect your professional, your career ambitions with this network, more or less. So that's a very important part of your studies, and therefore we'll focus on that from day one as you come to our campus. Yeah, again, who is best to talk about our return on investment? And I pulled out, again, a couple of quotes. You find one from Pavel Vranek, who is an entrepreneur. He has 2 dealerships for BMW in the Czech Republic. And he basically benefited a lot, in his own words, from the know-how. In a private conversation, he even told me that his employees dread Monday morning when he came back from the module in Vienna, because he was full of new ideas that he then wanted to implement immediately. So that's what I mean. As you go along, you will not only create a lot of insights, but you will also have the opportunity to implement them immediately into your professional environment and leverage, as you go along, your investment in the MBA. Another quote, also showing you the diversity of our different students and alumni. Pavel was an entrepreneur. Rita is a lawyer by background, and she mentioned in her quote that particularly when you come from a non-business background and have worked in a business environment, this gives you another boost of your career in terms of getting the big picture, in also getting the street credibility, as she put it in her own words. You would not trust a lawyer with a leadership position only after she did her MBA degree. She already got not only the experience from her background, but the certificate kind of saying that she knows what she's talking about. Yeah, and Florian, at the end of the day, I think he has an important comment to mention, and I think this is something that I've not talked about so far, but that I can elaborate a little bit further as we go along, is that the faculty that we work with is as international, as diverse as you are, and they are also very strongly connected to the real world. So they are not your classical university professors, the pure theorists. Of course, that's what they bring to the table. but they have a lot of experience in working with people like you, knowing about your challenges in order to bridge the theory practice gap together with you to make the most out of the content that they can deliver. Yeah, in a nutshell, again, I don't want to take too much time away from our Q&A sessions, and I hope your questions are coming in. I've highlighted once again a few facts that I would like to stress at this point. Let me just finish up my presentation before I ask Anna to come back with your questions to ask tonight. Is in stressing that we want to make sure that you make an educated decision when you take your MBA journey. Yeah? So therefore, please take all the opportunities that you can in order to get in touch with us. Yeah. If you say, I don't want to start my application, which is a quite tedious process, we realize that with lots of documents, but I just want to get an idea of would I fit into this program, or is a different cohort probably better for me? Shall I take this specialization or another one? Then we have really qualified staff in our environment, the program managers most typically, who are there to consult you. They work with students every day. They work with alumni every day. We can connect you with alumni from your industry, from probably your company, from your country, so you can get first-hand experience to make sure that you really get as much information as possible to make a great choice. Yeah, with that, I think I have highlighted one of the key informants for you, which is Alex Damev, our senior consultant for learning and education. He would be there for you. You find on our website the different program managers for the specializations. So do reach out to us so that we can answer all your questions and support you in your decision. Anna.
Yes. Hello again. I'm back with some questions.
Good.
Actually, we had a very lively chat session. It was awesome. And one of the first questions to kick off this question and answer session round came from Caroline. Now, she's still considering to apply for an MBA program. She's not particularly sure should she apply for a professional MBA or an executive MBA, and she wants to ask today, what's the difference?
That's a very good question, Caroline. Thank you very much. And I think it's an important one to distinguish the two program types. Yeah. And I think what you should ask yourself is, what do you want to get out of your MBA? So if you look at the two different program types, an executive MBA is typically more general. So you will find all the business essentials there, which you find in the business core of a professional MBA. In the professional MBA, you get the chance to specialize on certain industries or on certain topics like entrepreneurship, energy management, whatever. Yeah? So that's already, you know, a distinctive feature. Asking yourself is, which direction do I want to go? In the executive MBA, you look at the topics more from a leadership perspective. So you prepare yourself for the next leadership role in saying, I probably will not be the financial expert, but I will have to talk to the financial experts in my company or in my business unit or operations management. I will not be the operations expert, but I have to be a qualified discussant for my specialist. So that's the way how we look at the topics from an executive MBA perspective.
So you can basically speak the same language.
So you can basically speak the language, yeah? Mm-hmm. You hear all these topics in the professional MBA as well, and you will be a qualified contact point for people in your company, yeah? But you might not be the one who's taking the executive decisions yet, yeah? Mm-hmm. So you might be more in the role of your, a function, yeah, you are working in finance, you want to continue along those lines, or you're working in marketing and you want to continue along those lines, then the professional MBA would be a good choice. Yeah? I think, again, as I stressed before, if you're not sure, then just get back in touch with us in one of the program managers, either the executive MBA or one of the professional MBA program managers, and we can connect you with alumni from both programs, and you can talk to them what their experiences were. One thing that I want to clarify, though, if you have not done an executive MBA, you can still become executive with a professional MBA.
And how come?
Look at the example of Pavel. Yeah, he's running his own business. He is a CEO, more or less. He's done the professional MBA in marketing and sales because he said, for me, it's very important to get the marketing and sales know-how.
Sure. I mean, Peter Drucker once said it's probably the key element of a business. So.
who am I to argue? I'm coming from marketing.
Okay, but let's stick to the MBA experience. There was a few questions coming in from there. Valerie was wondering what type of exams take place in an MBA program, in what form, and how often do they take place?
That's a very good point, which I've not stressed. So thanks very much for raising that question. Typically, you would not have exams as the way to be evaluated, but you will work along this pre-core and post-module setup, and each of those components are graded. Yeah. So for your pre-module assignment, you will get a grade. For your participation in the core module, you will get a grade. For the post-module assignment, and those three subcomponents make the grade of your module. Yeah. Having said that, there are certain very specific modules where you might have an exam because the topic itself lends itself for that. Yeah? But basically, at this level, you're all very busy. It doesn't make sense to put in front of you 10 books and then at some point in time we ask you what you've read in the 10 books.
No, we want you to be really working with material hands-on, because another question that often comes up is about the practicability of the MBA. Are they going to be working with books? Probably, I assume, and to some extent, but then how is then the practical aspect integrated?
So basically, I think it's a combination of many things. Yeah. So you can imagine yourself sitting in the classroom and you will not be listening for hours. Yeah. Rather, you will be listening for a short period of time of theory input. Then you go into group work. This is also where you exchange your experience. You validate your experience with the faculty. You would be working on case studies, Harvard case studies, for example, your own case studies that you bring to the classroom, your own challenges. So it's going to be very interactive, very applied, yeah, and again takes it's you who can present material, but you also are responsible what to take out of it.
So in that respect, the program manager's function here at the WU Executive Academy, would you describe it then a little bit more that they're almost like co-pilots, so to say, for these potential students who want to shape careers?
So basically, that's how we see ourselves. Yeah. So I think the co-pilot picture is a pretty good metaphor of who we think we are and what we want to deliver in terms of value to you. You are, of course, in the driver's seat. Yeah. You need to make it happen. When I talk about career change, you have to go out and you have to push your employer, or you have to go out and look for a new job. Yeah. If you want the MBA to be your game changer. So you are in the driver's seat. You make the most out of it. But we are here as co-pilots to guide you along the lines, yeah. Guide you not only in your decision making, which program is the right one for you, yeah, but also guide you in terms of what do you have to do for the different modules, the way how we present the material, but also in terms of challenging situations that might come up, and probably something that we can talk about later. Also, if that question comes up or resonates, what do we do in terms of career services? So already
you're already on the next step, because one of the roles here is probably to open doors and make the connections, not for you, but make the platform available for making connections. And so one question that came up from both Mariana and Caroline were basically to ask you what types of services are out there, especially thinking back that we have people here joining tonight with several years of experience and call themselves senior students as well.
I think this is a very important part, in order to facilitate the goals that you have with an MBA. We already also provide a couple of services to you to make that change happen. Yeah? So that is from very technical aspects. What should your LinkedIn profile look like? What should your CV look like? How do you executive search firms recruit? Yeah? How do HR managers look at your CV and what do they want to see there? So there are lots of tools along those lines. There are lots of networking events where we bring you together with these people, where you can think about your own career aspirations. You can prepare yourself for those career aspirations. But again, don't forget, you are in the driver's seat.
And what kind of executive firms do we connect with? Do you have any names?
Yeah, I think we work with the big ones. If I think of Korn Ferry or Boeing, for example, top multinationals in executive search. But we work with a variety of different, also smaller firms, who are specialized in certain areas, like presenting your profile online for different regions, different connections, and so on. So really a broad portfolio of different offerings that you can take advantage of.
Definitely. So, I mean, there's a platform for meeting a lot of career consultants. And if you're looking to go in a particular area, such as consultancy, which one of our participants mentioned, then we definitely can set you up with other career consultants who then know the organizations and faculties looking to hire MBA candidates.
And let me come back to that aspect once again. How can you take your career to the next step? Yeah, I think about what I told you about this online network. Yeah, so whoever has a career or had a career or changed career into consulting, for example, you can search by yourself online and approach those people directly and say, hey, I'm a student of this and that program. I saw you also graduated from the VIEW Executive Academy. Can we have a Skype conversation around your experiences, for example? Or can you open a door for me in this new company? Yeah? And I think another aspect that I would like to mention is when you look at our website, you also find a lot of career stories. So you can get some inspiration of what people did who've been through the program before you and how they developed their career to the next step, yeah, depending on which program you look at. Yeah. So you find a lot of personal stories, what motivated people to come to an MBA, what they took out of it, and how their life developed after that.
Definitely. And one of the stories that just popped into my mind was the story of two MBA students who were not in the same class, Adrian and Ryan. Adrian's from Romania, Ryan's from UK, and they both took different specializations, entrepreneurship and innovation, and the second specialization I can't recall it, but in the end,
project management,
yeah. See, we work on this together, and they worked on a new business concept together, and they've created now a service platform for the medical industry, and they've done this through connecting through our alumni events, which we have, and of course through their MBA program. They probably met each other in the hallway or something, but it's a real nice story which you can read up upon in our career stories.
Yeah, and I think it's just add to that. I think it's a really nice example of how you can leverage the network. They said a big part of their international expansion of their entrepreneurial venture was also going through the network. So they were expanding into Southern Europe, calling somebody in or reaching out to somebody in Serbia who might not be in their industry, but said, can you connect us with somebody you know from your network? So I think you can also use it for snowballing. So they are really a nice showcase of how you can leverage the network.
And we get to see them every year at the Christmas party.
That's right.
So they stay in touch, which we hope that most of our alumni do. We kind of keep you in. We're like the Mafia, but in a nice way. So we have a few more questions coming. We have some time for more questions. I invite you all to post them here. And if we moved on into the application section, Michael and Adna wanted to ask about requirements, and in particular, these hard facts. What do I need to apply? And they noticed that, okay, some things are not listed or some things aren't so clear. So, for instance, is an English certificate required?
Usually we do not require an English certificate. I think I've outlined in the beginning that our participants are quite senior. So if you've worked in an international environment for 10 plus years, then most likely your business language will be English, and you're able to express yourself, use the right terminology, etc. So this is why we feel it would be an additional burden on you to ask for a TOEFL test or IELTS or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Having said that, it's not that we do not check for that. This is part of the interview. When we've looked at your application package, when we invite you for a personal interview on campus, then usually what we do is you get a case study to work on, like a Harvard case, so you know what to expect later on. And we also ask you to talk about that case. We have a couple of other questions during that interview. And this is one way how we establish whether you can deal with large amount of written English material, but also can express yourself and feel comfortable in expressing yourself. So that's how we make sure that you will find it easy and comfortable to work in the MBA environment.
Okay, so that's the testing ground, let's say, for your English skills. And what about the GMAT requirements? This is not part of our requirements, so how come?
We have made a deliberate choice on this one. Yeah. Again, as I said, if you look at the statistics, we have a quite senior audience. So it's not a full-time MBA. It's not for fresh graduates who have no professional experience. So we realized that the times when you remembered all of those things that the GMAT requires, like high school mathematics, may not be as relevant in your business right now. And therefore, there's really no point in, brushing that up and creating a hurdle. So usually we require a first degree, like a bachelor's degree, for example. We look at your entire portfolio. What is it that you bring to the table? And under certain circumstances and exceptions, if you don't have a completed bachelor degree, we do make some exceptions. And this is when GMAT and comparable tests are coming into the picture again.
Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Keep them coming in. We have a few more minutes. And another question going back to the career prospects. From the audience came the question is, are the MBA degrees here from the WU Executive Academy recognized by other employers, for instance, when they want to move jobs?
Mm-hmm. I think it's I would say yes. I've not heard of anything else. Yeah. So what you get is an MBA degree from WU Vienna. WU is one of Europe's largest business universities. We are triple accredited, as you know, with all the quality indicators that you get, and therefore this should not be a big deal.
Okay, and we have some participants coming from as far as Qatar and China. Is this institution also, has it reached those areas of the world?
Mm-hmm. I think the way how we do that is basically through rankings, through accreditations, as I just mentioned. Yeah, so anybody who is dealing with education, HR people who look at educational degrees, they will know about accreditations, about Triple Crown accreditation, which we have as like 1% of business schools on a global scale have. But it's also about rankings that they look at. Financial Times ranking, where we're listed with the Global Executive MBA as one of the world's top 50 programs. QS ranking in the top 20. So I think, these kind of indicators give you the security that you're really working at a great quality institution.
Okay. And if you want to get more details on how this works on the ground, let's say in that MBA program, we can connect you with that program manager who can show you more insights into the course's quality.
Or also, if you're looking at a certain part of the world that you want to work in, then we can connect you to alumni that live in that region and that can tell you firsthand of what they experienced when they showed their WU degree.
Great. Well, we're happy to hear that Caroline has met some alumni who have talked highly about our program.
Good. Thank you very much for the positive feedback, Caroline.
And we're going to also go back to the MBA experience. How is an international residency? Can you explain how a typical day is at the Harvard University campus or on the Boston area, for instance?
Okay, so I think probably the first misconception I have to clarify, you are not going on vacation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's usually a quite intense program. It's packed with all sorts of different activities. It's a mix between academic content. So usually you will do a module out of the different modules in your program at this venue. You will be working with foreign faculty for that case, but it also gives you the opportunity to immerse yourself into the business community. So we do company visits, we organize roundtables, you get a chance to meet alumni, you get a chance to hear from local experts of how it is to do business in this part of the world or doing business in a certain area. So we try to make it a really very comprehensive experience so that you get another interesting insights beyond the classroom setting.
And what were some of the companies that the classes have visited in the past?
There's a huge variety. I just looked at the program for Silicon Valley in this September for the marketing and sales class. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at the Facebook and Google, but we also look at startups in the region, which you might not have heard of, but I can give you a good idea of what's going on. So it's a big mix of different companies, large ones, small ones, international ones, local ones, to give you a broad perspective of what's going on in that part of the world.
Sounds exciting. And I have to say, you do have to work hard to get an invitation to these big companies.
That's right.
Because I recently just was a tourist privately in Ireland, where there are headquarters for LinkedIn and Facebook, and it's not just possible to walk in and see their offices. So you have to get invited, and that's a learning I made as a tourist, but it was all in good fun. So hey, well, I guess we have a few minutes for some final questions. If you have anything on your mind right now that you would like to ask, feel free to post it, because tonight's the night. We're here for you, and do share. In the meantime, I'll also ask another question, which sometimes comes up in these online communities, if some of the career services are also available outside of Vienna.
Well, basically, the answer is yes. Probably not everything, but as we realize that we have a very international student and alumni community, we first of all make sure that if, some of the offerings are available online, so you don't have to be present here in Vienna to take part in it. We do, as you go along in the program, of course, make sure that those activities that we deliver physically, you also get a chance to participate. So we link those events very closely to your schedule. And in our major hubs, we also have in different parts of the world seasonable or a big size of alumni in different cities or different countries. You have regular reunions which allow you to connect, but which also where we organize career activities at least once a year to make sure that you can stay connected and you can do the most or take the most out of your MBA experience.
Great. Okay. And how about if let's say the MBA experience back to the classroom? Is it mandatory to be in the modules every day?
Yeah, the participation is mandatory. Yeah, and so in the core module, this is why you know already in advance when those modules will be scheduled. Because keep in mind, you are benefiting from everybody else's experience, but if you're not there, nobody else can benefit from your experience. Yeah, so therefore it's crucial to have everybody there to plan for, and therefore we provide you with the schedule way in advance.
And it probably also goes back to our concept of education, where it's a lot of group work, hands-on discussions in the classroom, and not just something you can sit at home and read a book and learn.
Yeah, I think we follow very strongly the concept of blended learning. So you have some components, if you think of pre- and post-module assignments, which you do individually or as groups remotely, not here in Vienna. But at this level, you learn a lot from the direct exchange. Yeah. So therefore, you need to be here. You need to be physically in the classroom. And I think another thing that you should not miss out on is the networking and thinking of how we establish relationships. After all, we're still humans. It might be going for a glass of beer or wine after the module or exchanging some fun moments and experiencing the city. And I think this is something where you have to be present, obviously.
I agree. Well, thank you for being present tonight here at our online MBA and Master of Law info session. It was a pleasure to have you here and have such a lively chat session. Thanks again from my side.
Yeah, thank you very much from my side as well. Thank you very much for being here with us this evening. And do take our opportunity or offering to get in touch with us with any question that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.